Hello everyone, I hope all of you are having a great time and welcome to another episode of Coding Decoded. Today we are not going to solve another contest problem or lead code daily challenge. Rather, we'll talk about something else which is very special. We'll talk about the company named Facebook. Why Facebook? We'll get to know in some time. Facebook is something that is every developer's dream. And yes, dreams do come true. You must be thinking that I would have got through Facebook, but hold your horses, it's not correct. I'm not yet. Rather, it's a better news. Someone from the Coding Decoded community has nailed all the interviews of Meta. His name is Adam Niffen. He's based out of United States. He has been associated as early members of the channel, and today's session is all about him, his experience. So it's time to get pumped up, inspired, and motivated. So without further ado, let's bring in him. It's going to be an impromptu conversation with him. Also, he was generous enough to share all the resources that he used to get through Meta, and I'll be sharing those resources with you guys at the end of the video. So do watch it till the last. Hi Adam, thanks for joining in and taking out time at this time of the day, especially 7 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, of course. No, appreciate you having me on, and obviously watched a lot of your videos and letting me use your platform. So appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. And first of all, congratulations on getting through Meta. It's a dream of millions of developers around the globe. And I'm highly happy that you got through.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. It's I'm eager to kind of share because I know a lot of people deal with rejections and stuff like that. I definitely have my own kind of journey with that, and so obviously if you can get into it, but kind of just people need to keep continuing to work on their craft and just keep getting better, not letting that deter you from uh, you know trying to achieve what you ultimately want to.
So, how did this journey start? Like, what was your previous experience? When did you actually think of applying, and what was the process like?
Yeah, so I mean, it starts way back. Like I actually originally I went to university, and I originally got a business degree. When I played sports in college, and that kind of helps like my mindset with like I'm just gonna like kind of work until I kind of get what I ultimately want, or like at some point like maybe you'll be too old or whatever. But so I didn't really like any of the career prospects, and decided to go back to school and get a computer science degree. So I was probably 24 when I like decided to go back to school. So also if you're a little bit older, it's definitely not too late to start. So
I beg to differ there because you followed your passion before that, and then
yeah,
so
definitely. And I said people like you got to find your own path too, like find what you enjoy,
yeah.
and like people say you won't work a day in your life, but obviously you're still going to work. But yeah, definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, ended up going back to school, kind of like dropping everything. Luckily, my wife, who's amazing throughout the process and stuff, she was working, and so she was able to kind of support us and stuff. And so uh, I worked like a part-time job as I was doing that, and they were really cool and flexible. Um, and at first I was kind of doing data entry stuff, but they let me tinker with their code base and stuff a little bit and kind of get into it. So that was fun. Um, got a job at a company local to me, which great company, awesome people, kind of more web devy stuff too. But like so I think it was about a little bit after well, I was almost done with school, completing my computer science degree. And I kind of started looking at like CS career questions. I don't know if you've seen that on Reddit or anything like that. Um, so I saw like the high salaries and stuff, and obviously that's like a kind of an initial like thought, like, oh, that's cool. And then like obviously, like movies. Like, have you seen the internship movie
Yeah, I've
with
seen.
Will?
Yeah.
Yeah. So or with I don't know why I'm blanking right now, but yeah, love that movie. And so kind of like was like, oh, like I'd love to get into like big tech and just kind of like obviously it's a lot of people's like dream company and stuff. So kind of looked into resources, obviously leak code and stuff like that. So I kind of did that. This was like 4 years ago too. And so, I
So the
started leak
movie
coding.
inspired you to get a job at Meta.
A little bit, yeah. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of funny, but yeah, I did. I was like, oh, like you're not too old and that kind of stuff. So, um, yeah, and but yeah, so a Google recruiter had reached out to me after had done I don't know how many leak code questions, not like a ton, but like
Mhm.
not a lot. Um, and did a phone interview. Uh, I thought it like at the time, like you don't know what you don't know, so I thought it went well, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll probably move to an on-site, like getting ready for that, and like got the rejection email, and I was like, I was kind of like, oh, that sucks. But like went from there, continued to just like get better, keep doing leak code and like all those other things. So I mean, I have like years of kind of rejections through like big companies, and so then I ultimately, like a year later, I interviewed with Amazon on Facebook, and this time I was able to get on sites. And I thought
So,
that went pretty well. Like I thought the Amazon one, I thought I was going to get an offer. Ultimately, did. In the Facebook one, like the coding was okay, but then we had a systems design round, and I just kind of bombed it. Like I had not studied systems design at all. Um, and so like when he asked the question, I literally like did not give any like any answer. And so he was really cool. Like the whole Facebook experience was awesome. Like I don't say that as, and also like I'm not here like representing Meta in any way. Like this is 100% my own. Like it's just my opinions. It's not the company's by any means. Um, but I always enjoyed like the process through Meta. Like the recruiters are awesome. Like the obviously the campus was awesome, which I actually got to go to the campus because this was pre-COVID, which was cool. But ultimately didn't get kind of anything. And then 8, 9 months later, kind of went through the process again with a lot of smaller companies. And like there was a couple that I thought like 100% like is gonna like offer because I did really well like in the coding rounds,
let's
like
go step by
aced
step
it.
there, Adam.
Sure.
Yeah. So how many companies did you apply even before thinking about Meta?
A lot, like 100. Like yeah, I can't give you a
A
because every
rough
kind of
idea,
like
approximately 100 there.
hundreds. No, like more, probably like in the 500s. Like honestly,
Oh, in
like
500.
like yeah, like honestly, like it's a lot of companies. Like especially like the company I worked for, we didn't use like modern tech. So a lot of like startups would like reach out, then they'd be like, oh, you don't have X amount of years of you know some random technology, and it's like
So,
I'm sure you've dealt with that too,
yeah,
and it's like yeah, it's like okay, well you could have seen my
yeah,
resume, so
absolutely. So that's a lot of perseverance, I would say, a lot of consistency when you have to keep yourself upbeat. Even I believe not all the companies you would have been able to get through. There would have
yeah,
been lows as well. So how did you manage them there?
yeah. So so I kind of had like my third rounds, and like I said, I thought I was gonna get them, and then ultimately didn't, and that was probably like the lowest part. Like I was like, oh dude, like I've just been like what year 2, 3 in the process, and like put in how many hours and time and like not seeing any results. And I actually had interviews with, now that I say this, it sounds really stupid, but I got like a bunch of rejections, had interviews with Uber and Bloomberg,
Mm-hmm.
and was just like, I was so like defeated. I just canceled them and was just like, I'm just over this process. About a month later, I, kind of came back to like reality, and I was like, obviously this is something you want. You've put in a lot of time, like just continue on the keep doing, like at some point it's going to pay off, like you've done all this work, like at some point it's got to pay off. And I like literally like wrote down like a note to myself, like an email, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
just going to like put so much effort into it that they have no like they have to hire me, like I'm just going to kill the interview so much that like people have to hire me. And so that was kind of my mindset, like I'm just going to put in the effort, and like if it takes me a year, that's what it's going to be. If it takes me 2 years, that's what's going to be. And just like make kind of a plan and follow the plan. And sometimes like it's not going to work out. I would say too, so much, we probably get into this more, but so much of it too is luck. Like, obviously the more problems on leak code you do, or like whatever resource you use, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to give you a better chance to be successful. But at the end of the day, like they could ask some obscure question, and like
Yeah.
you have no control over that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
just yeah, so it's like you got to realize, like at some point, like it's out of your control, and all you can do is work
Hmm.
hard and like hope for the best. And obviously, like pre-interview anxiety, like is kind
Hmm.
of real, and like leading up to you're like, oh man, I hope I get stuff I know and whatnot. And obviously, the more you do, the more you're gonna like the better
Yeah.
chance you give yourself. But it still is like very luck based, I would say.
Yeah. So there are approximately
So
50% of chance, like the questions you might have seen in the past, you witness the same ones in the interview. And there are approximately 50% solid chances that everything will be new to you on the table. You have to come up with the approach there and then itself. And I'll tell
yeah,
you, those are the interviews where you actually learn. In the rest of
yeah,
the interviews, you're actually remembering what was the solution back then, what did you do? It's more of a
yeah,
revision that is happening there, and the true solution actually comes up when you actually witness the question for the first time.
yeah. No, I 100% agree. Like and I think too, like so moving forward from that at that point, so like 8 9 months like down the road, this was like November of this year. And so obviously like lined up a bunch of interviews, or like a Facebook recruiter had reached back out to me, so I lined up a bunch of interviews. But like I took the mindset of like I want to like I'm just gonna learn as much as I can and hope the interviews like go well. But like really, I just want to like do well, learn from it, and again, I had the mindset of like if it takes one, two, whatever it is, like I'll just keep grinding. And at some point, it'll pay off.
So
But like just learn through the interviews.
do you used to retrospect your interviews after it didn't go that well? In
Did
cases
I
of,
do what? Sorry.
do you used to retrospect what happened in the interview? Like where did you go wrong? What were the good things about
Yeah,
it?
definitely. Yeah, I think that's another important like aspect of it. Like be your, at least for me, like be
Mm-hmm.
your biggest critic, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you assume you did like really, really well, like there's always something you can get better at. Like even if you nailed it, like you feel like you nailed it, like maybe you were a little slow on like understanding runtime complexity or like space and those kind of things. And so there's always something you can get better at. So I think take that mindset, uh, and like using that's been helpful. And I come from like a sports background as well. So like
Mm-hmm.
using like you do the same thing in sports, right? Like if you have a good game,
Yeah.
like you never did anything perfect. And so just yeah, keeping like perspective on everything and not being like the company, you know, was just stupid or and like maybe and there's a million reasons why you might not get hired too. Like even if you nailed it, like they might just be interviewing to, interview and
Mm-hmm.
they might not really need the position. So even if you kill it, like just know
Yeah.
there is some luck, but be your biggest critic, I think is like a decent amount of advice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, always have like retrospective, like obviously give it like a day or two, right? And then kind of go back and be like, I feel like a lot of times too, like I would think over the questions and be like, oh, I thought I did this perfect, like right after. And then I'd go back and think about it. I was like, oh, did I mess up on this? Or like, I was a little clunky on this part. So I think having that definitely helps like for the future interviews. Um,
I
yeah,
totally agree with you on that. A retrospective is
yeah,
even more important when even though you have killed the interview. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
And
there's
so,
always something to learn from retrospective, and this is
right.
what I learned after joining the IT sector. Like the revision
Mm,
is the most important part, and after the interviews, retrospective is the most important part.
yeah, 100%
Otherwise,
agree with that.
otherwise you will keep on committing those same mistakes, interview after interview, and you will not even get to know that where you are going wrong.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, 100% agree. Um, but
So,
yeah, so that was kind of like after I guess moving like just finishing this up real quick. Like as I got to like again October, November this year, reached
mhm,
out by a Facebook recruiter, ended up just like, all right, I'll just kind of blast every company and see
mhm,
what happens. And like obviously I think too, like as you go through these processes, keep contact information, right? Because like
mhm.
maybe the person isn't like necessarily recruiting for a role, but they can direct you to the right person. And I think that's how a lot of my interviews came about. Like, update your LinkedIn, like
Mhm.
make it kind of stand out. So when people search, they can find you. And then, like when you get a recruiter like email, like
Yep.
keep that because that's going to be a great point of contact for you moving forward. And if it's not them recruiting, like necessarily for like your level, they'll definitely direct you to the right person. Like they want to hire people.
Definitely.
So, and that's kind of like what happened. So Facebook or I guess Meta at this point reached out and then kind of just blurb, send something to everybody I had contact on. And there was definitely like some like times where people weren't reaching out, but like I ultimately was able to get interviews with like all the big companies, like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, obviously Meta. And I started with Meta. Meta was my first one. And, obviously like I had experience interviewing, but it was kind of just like, oh, I hope I hope it goes well. Don't really know. Like I'd been practicing, but like I probably was studying a lot more for systems design as well at this point.
Okay.
So, so I did that one. And, I was like, initially after I was like, oh, I thought it went like really well. Like I was able to solve the questions and like give really good times, obviously like be able to like do it quickly. And I was hopeful, but I was always like, I feel like after so many rejections, you just assume everything's a rejection. So I was like, like, no point in getting my hopes up. So then I had an on-site with Microsoft and, kind of same thing. I was like, oh, I think it went really well, but, rejections and just assumed it was going to be another rejection. So like right after my Microsoft, like, so I had interviews with Facebook like Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which actually was kind of cool because normally they won't do that, but I think just like interview availability. And so they asked if that was okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm totally cool with that. So right after
how many rounds did you have with Facebook?
Yeah. So I had, you have like your recruiter screen and then like an initial phone interview, like all go data structure interview, and then an on-site, which was 4 rounds. I think that's pretty typical for most like software engineer positions, and like obviously like you have 1 behavioral, 2 coding, and 1
design.
One design type rounds.
So how many lead code questions had you done till starting the Facebook process?
Like I said, it's been like I've done a lot. Like I've done like 1,000 plus questions.
Oh, awesome, man.
I definitely don't think you have to do that much. Like, do the main ones and understand concepts. I did it just because I took that, mindset of like, I'm just going to like literally put so much effort in that, they can't deny me kind of thing. But yeah, so after
how do you used to revise them? Like revision is also an important aspect of nailing interviews.
I mean, obviously like you have
any strategy there on the revision part?
There should have been, but I think when I started, I didn't have any, I just, my algorithms and data structures were not great. So as I would see new problems, like I would just go YouTube videos and stuff like that. And there's a ton of resources out there. Like obviously your videos are super helpful. Like for me, like I also like subscribe to LeetCode Premium and that's great. But for me, seeing it visually is so much more beneficial. So seeing people like draw out the problems helps stick in my brain better. So that was I would initially just like YouTube, like, is there a video for this?
The brain memory is photogenic in nature. So it captures the photo, it stores in your head. And that's what helps. Like the pictorial representation always is an add-on over the regular speaking one.
Yeah, totally. Because like too, like that's the other thing with like again, I don't know if I should digress here, but like for me, what I thought was beneficial, like I would solve the problem on like the coder pad or whatever before, like I would visually try to draw it out or like, walk through the algorithm. So when I got to the coding part, it was just regurgitating what I had just done, but just putting it into code. I think that helps. Like people want to see your thought process. I think doing that, especially now with COVID, like everything's online. So kind of having that practice of like visually showing the interview what you're going to do so they can see it. And then obviously like putting it into code should be easy.
Makes sense.
But yeah, so I had those interviews like right after the Microsoft found out. I don't know if they were still, I forget when they switched to Meta, but Facebook was like the recruiter sent an email like, hey, like, hope you like would love to connect. And that kind of gave a hint that it went well. And so I was like, oh, like this is awesome. Ultimately talked to him, said they were going to make an offer, and was like super excited. Obviously like after years of like kind of going through the process and spending so much time, you're like, oh, like finally paid off. So that was like, obviously a moment with like my wife, and obviously
Mhm.
I have two daughters as well that are
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, so it was like really cool, like just they're 2 and 8 months almost. um
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously like that's another part too, is like have a support system. Like my wife was awesome throughout the process. I was like, hey, like I have these interviews coming up, like I know like it's extra work, not on as well as on me, like but on you. So she took, spent a lot of extra time helping take care of the kids at night, while I was, on the computer
Mhm.
studying and stuff. So I think that's also like have a support system. Um,
Yeah,
but but yeah,
that
so
really
then
helps.
Microsoft,
That
yeah,
really
and then so I reached out to Microsoft. I was like, hey, like and honestly, like at this point, like Facebook was my top like option. Just like throughout the
Mhm.
process I'd gone through, I had
Mhm.
enjoyed like kind of how they conducted everything, and like they really put like the interviewer first and are very open about stuff, and
Mhm.
like quick to get back with you. And obviously, like it depends on your recruiter, but most of the recruiters are really good. So again, like I'm not like here representing Meta in any way. So
Yeah,
that was just my kind of 2 cents with
experience.
that. Yeah. And so then I reached out to Microsoft. I was like, hey, like, I got an offer, like would love to, I had a really good time. Like I really enjoyed the Microsoft interview. The people
Mhm.
were really cool. Um, but yeah, ultimately, I kind of, I don't know if you want to get into like negotiations, but like I kind of told Meta, I was like, hey, like, I'm really excited. Like if you kind of like hit, have numbers in mind, and like if you guys hit these numbers, like I'll drop interviews, and
Mhm.
just sign. And so that was kind of my strategy, because I knew that was kind of the top company, and so ultimately they were able to do that. And yeah,
That's a
really
nice
excited.
strategy, I would say. I haven't
Yeah,
experienced it yet, but that gives me a
yeah,
new pointer. Like you can play with
yeah,
that.
yeah. I think like if you don't have other offers, like it is something you can do. Like again, I was lucky enough to get
Mhm.
another offer, so I don't know how much it helped, but I think that is like a nice point you can add if you have other interviews going on. Like, hey, like I have interviews with XYZ,
Mhm.
especially if it's like another big company like Google. I think they're
Mhm.
direct kind of competitors with each other for people. And so I was just like, yeah, like if you like here's what I'm looking for. Like if you do this, uh like I'll stop and sign kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, so
smart
that was
move.
kind of my yeah. So
I'll
I think
add
that's
it
like
to my list.
yeah, I think it's
Definitely.
a good like yeah, definitely. I heard that from I can't remember who I heard it from. I can't remember his name, but yeah, he has a good negotiation page. I should look it up, and maybe like link it or something. But
Send me
yeah, there's
after
a
the
ton of
meeting. I'll share it with the community as well.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, obviously there's a ton of stuff, like ton of like resources out there too for people who like your channel. There's tons of stuff out there on YouTube that I kind of have written down, so could share it at some point too, so people have access to it. Um, but yeah, so that was kind of my journey leading, getting an offer.
Mhm.
It took a long time, like a lot of rejections and stuff. So, and I always saw people too, like I saw like a couple comments on yours, like I hope to be like commenting on your video one day. And it's like I always, I had the same thing. Like for everyone who is saying they get an offer, there's like hundreds of people who are dealing with rejections. It's just most people don't want to vocalize that. Uh, most people want to. I mean, because it is like a little embarrassing. Like it's hard to tell like family members. Like I always dealt with that with like family members where like I told them I had interviews and they're like, oh, how'd it go? And then
Oh,
you have to be like, oh, ultimately like I was rejected. And then they try to like diagnose what happened. You're like, this
yeah.
isn't your typical. It's not your typical interview. Like
Yep.
it's a little different.
Mhm.
So that was like two. Like this round, I didn't. I told obviously my wife, and but that was about it. So like nobody else like knew that I was interviewing. Just because it's. I mean, it is. I don't want to say like embarrassing because it's
Yeah.
not, but it's always like a weird conversation when people are like,
Yeah,
"How do
yeah, it's
interviews
nothing
go?"
to boast about even without even
Yeah,
getting through. So it's more of a
yeah,
secreting thing before getting through, and then you can blast it out.
totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's how I felt too. Um, yeah, I feel like too, like then it's like added pressure. You're like, oh, like
yeah.
I have to do well because I told people I'm interviewing and they're gonna think I'm like a failure if I don't get the job kind of thing. It's like can't be further from the truth. So
So you talked about the system design part. How did you prepare for it? And you especially said that you were not that
yeah,
great at it.
yeah, I have like the company I work at, we're like it was a smaller we only had like 200 to 300 employees. Everything was like local, so like we didn't have any sort of like scalability issues. There's a lot of good stuff on like YouTube. Like I think let me have it written down here. Tech Dummies. I don't know how you say his name. Narendra. He's really good. Like he has some good videos. Gaurav Sen has some really good videos. Obviously, Tushar Roy. Kind of. I feel like everyone kind of knows his videos.
Yep.
I also did obviously like Educative IO with the systems design course is good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I think that's the Bible, the educative.io course.
Yeah. Everyone says it, and like it's definitely good. But again, like for me, I'm more of a visual person.
Okay.
And so there's a couple other channels.
Whatever good resources you have, you can send it out to me, and I can
Okay.
frame it, even though they're not framed for the view or audience viewing. I can do it for myself, and I can share a Google Doc with them so that they can also.
Okay. For sure. Yeah. There's so much stuff out there. It's always hard to tell what's good. And like, obviously it just depends on the person. Like for me, those what I thought useful. Yeah, some people might not, but yeah, just kind of like take it with a grain of salt. And if it helps you, great. If it doesn't, find something else.
Absolutely fine. Like I believe most of the developers would benefit from it, and they
Okay.
also one day will definitely get through Meta.
For sure. Right about that time, it was like, I was going through obviously like would do leak code, but would do like the daily challenges. And there was a channel, Algorithms Made Easy, that would do videos every day. And so like every day I would like get on, watch the video, and like, or like I try to solve the problem and then like look at the video. And like right around that time, I think they like said something like, oh, we're not able to make videos. And I was like, no, like, what am I going to do? And then I stumbled upon your channel and I was like, awesome. Like I have someone who's like committed and like I can watch his videos. So like literally like it was funny. Like they kind of stopped, and then I don't know if you started, but like ramped up. And so I like, I don't want to say switched, but like, like started watching your video. So that's funny how that like worked out.
That's an accomplishment for me, that you also joined as a subscriber and you made it through Meta. So because I myself couldn't do it till now.
Well, I'm sure you'll be able to. Again, I don't know what the like, when they start hiring again. Obviously, it's like location based too, I'm sure.
They have started hiring again. I got the call back, but I'm yet to apply. There are few personal things going on, so I'm yet to figure out when to apply. I'll definitely tell you when to refer me out.
Gotcha, for sure.
So, any last advice to the viewers out there?
I mean, I would just say, like, obviously, like interviewing is like really hard. Like it's not easy. Like you're gonna deal with rejections. Like take everything as a learning experience. I think once I shifted that, and not like you have to get the job, like I shifted it to like I just want to like learn and get better. The process was more fun, and like I found more success. Like don't be too hard on yourself. Like and I also think like a lot of it is luck based, like I kind of mentioned before. So again, don't kill yourself. Like I've been asked like ridiculous questions in like an hour interview. I'm like, there's 0% chance I could solve this unless I had solved it before. And even then, like if I solved it yesterday, maybe I could do it, but like it would be really hard. So a lot of it's luck on the questions you ask. A lot of it's like the interviewers, like everything kind of has to fall into place for you. And obviously you can kind of like take some of that luck out of it the more you prepare, but ultimately there is a lot of luck. Like maybe the interviewer is having a bad day and just doesn't like you. Like you don't know. So yeah, just continue to grind and get better, and eventually it'll pay off.
Definitely. And have you joined in Meta officially?
I did. Yeah, it was my first week this week. It was short because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So 4 days.
Okay, it's just 4 days. So how have been the experience of these 4 days?
It's been awesome. Yeah, like they have a really cool like new hire orientation. Obviously, like people know about the boot camp process, and so like I just kind of this like I think Monday's day 3 of boot camp. So there's so much information coming at you kind of from all angles, and so you're kind of trying to like digest it and figure out. Yeah, but it's been really fun, and like obviously they've done new hire for a lot of people, and a lot of people have been in my position. It feels a little overwhelming right now, but I'm sure like the more I do it, the more I get into it, the better I'll feel. So it's been fun.
That's great, man. And have you like joined the on-site office yet, or it's work from home
No,
as well?
so I'm a full-time remote. Um,
Oh, full-time
so
remote.
they have that option. Like when I got the offer, my recruiter was like, "Do you want to work at an office or do you want to be full-time remote?"
Okay.
And I was like, full-time remote is my preferred option. So yeah, it's cool to have that. And I feel again like this is another thing too. Like
Mm-hmm.
just because you get rejected at some point, like I feel really lucky because I'm located in Oregon. I would have had to move to like Seattle or like Menlo Park, and like while that would have been cool, um, like it was just better with like having kids and like my wife wanted to be kind of where we're at. That I felt like they're like now that I got an offer, like I feel really lucky because I'm able to work remote. And if I would have got the offer before, we would have had to move. So like sometimes like it's a blessing in disguise, like a
Yeah.
rejection. Um, and so that's another kind of like bit of advice I would give is at the time it's obviously like you want so bad to get the offer. But then like down the road, like you may get a better offer, like it may just be better for you. So I think keeping that perspective as well is important.
I think the best thing about COVID was the company started considering the opportunity for full-time remote. More companies started it. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
something
It's
good in
crazy.
COVID as well.
Yeah, I know it's hard to like take the goods, but yeah, like that's a huge plus. Like for so many people,
Mm.
I ended up going back into the office with the company I was at before, and I was like, I don't mind working in the office, but when I wasn't, when I wanted to take a break, I'm just still on the computer. Where I'm at home, I can like go on a walk, get outside. It's just so much more beneficial for me, and like being able to like see my kids as well, and wife, and like help out a little bit in between work and stuff
Yeah.
is awesome. So yeah, I feel really lucky, and I was kind of glad the way everything worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these were the questions that I had, and thanks for being so elaborate about your journey and so vocal about it. It's definitely
Hmm.
going to help a lot of developers around the globe who are aiming for Meta, and probably they'll also learn a lot from it. They'll acquire the best out of it, and they'll also try, they'll get motivated, and one day, surely, we all will be there at Meta.
Yeah, no, I hope so. And I'd say too, like if anyone has any more questions, like feel free to reach out to me. Like I can give you my LinkedIn and stuff, or
Sure.
I'm very open. Like it's a long journey, and so I feel really excited to be able to share this with you and other people. So if anyone
Guys,
has
the link
questions,
is in the
so
description. I'll share his LinkedIn ID with you.
perfect.
And once again, thanks for taking out time for this. I'm glad that we did this session, and probably we can have more sessions when and where you'll talk about the work culture at Facebook.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. And again, thanks so much for having me and letting me use your platform to kind of talk about my journey. It's been really fun and I enjoyed my time.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks once again, and I'm also thankful that coding decoded could be part of your journey.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, super helpful. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Okay, then see ya, man.